Good evening. This is Gloria Taylor Brown with the Gathering of Priestesses. And apparently Mercury is not quite finished with us. Pamela was on earlier. We had no problems. And then her computer crashed. So she has had to reboot her computer, and she will be on momentarily. So please hang with us and know that we're doing the best we can and doing it as fast as we can. So appreciate you all being here. See lots of names that that are friends, and see some new names. Thank you for showing up. I know that you're here to hear Pam, and she's going to be here. Pamela's going to be here, and she's going to talk about her new book, which is on the Tarot and Kabbalah. And my co-host, Kathryn Ravenwood, is with us, and she knows more about the Kabbalah than I do. So I've already told her that I expect her to ask some questions tonight, because I do like to at least appear intelligent with these things. And frankly, I don't think I can appear intelligent with the Kabbalah. It's nothing. I have never studied it. It's an intense system, and I know that many people spend their entire lives. I mean, talk a little bit about the Kabbalah from your point of view, Raven.
Well, from my point of view, I wanted to study the Kabbalah based on my deep love of the Tarot, knowing that the Kabbalah and the Tarot are intricately involved with one another as a very old wisdom. And so I've got into it more from that and have studied it rather than, and I've also had some exposure with Jewish ceremonies. A friend of mine is writing a brilliant book, and she's involving the time of the Inquisition and the Jews in Spain. And we've had quite a few Jewish ceremonies at her house, so I've had a little more exposure that way, but Jewish I'm not. But the Kabbalah, to me, basically the Tree of Life and how the Tarot interacts with the Tree of Life and the Tree of Life interacts with the Tarot, is very informing, and I have lots to learn about it. So I also am looking forward to hearing Pamela talk tonight. Right. But the Tree of Life is within us. It is a system that lives within us, and wherever you are in your life, you can figure out you're somewhere on that Tree of Life having an experience. I'm very, very much looking forward to her explaining it more to us. Yeah, so I've never really talked about it with anybody before. Maybe she'll call in.
Well, we may have to do that if all else fails. So we've done that before. It's not my favorite thing. I do like to have the pretty faces on the screen, but we can do that if all else fails. So I know that Pamela gets a little flustered if her computer doesn't work right, like we all do. I mean, frankly, my life is centered around a computer, and if my computer is not happy, I'm not happy. And I don't know about you guys out there, but frankly, this last Mercury retrograde for me was the worst Mercury retrograde I've ever had. She's made it! Yay!
Hallelujah! Hopefully, we shall see. Yeah. All right.
Well, we have lots of attendees. We've got Jacqueline Penn, who's got to be one of yours, and Kathleen Donovan, and I can see a bunch of other people on here. They're still coming in, so great. We do have a chat section where people can put in questions, and I will ask the questions if they're for Pamela or for Raven or for me or for whoever you want them to. You can address them to any one of us. And so just starting it one more time, this is a Gathering of Priestesses. This is number 30. I'm very pleased that we've gotten to this point. And Pamela is, she was one of my favorite people whenever we did our first telesummit. And we did her, I think, the third show, and she was on with Reverend Ione. and the two of them just lit up the screen. It was incredible. So it was probably most fun I had, considering everything that was going on. And that was, you know, to see that energy between you two. I mean, in a way, you're like dark and light. And, you know, so Reverend Ione is black, so that's my point there. And, but so brilliant, both of you. So anyway, Pamela, we have to start with the question we always start these shows with, and I know you've already told it, but you know what? It was a long time ago, and I don't even remember it myself. So what drew you onto the path of the priestess?
Oh, my. Okay. Oh, such an interesting question and remembrance, and not a question I was thinking about today, but one thing that was so marvelous. First of all, I feel I was born into this work, this path, the path of a priestess. What is the path of a priestess? We have to ask that, you know. But the idea that the world is bigger than we think, the universe is bigger than we think, more dimensional than we think, and I felt those dimensions from the time I was. From the time I came in. In other words, I believe I am a mystic. I think that that's a lot of what this is about. And then later I saw it training. I saw it training as training in world's religions and as a priestess. But I think the thing that really pulled me onto the path at this time in my life, later as an adult rather, it wasn't really this time, it was the beginning of the 80s, very early 80s, I met a mysterious woman. She was a priestess. I was, at that time, basically a card-carrying, briefcase-carrying academic. And this is a true story. So I was with my little daughter. I was at the harbor where I live, where there are a lot of fishermen and so on, and we went to have breakfast in a restaurant. So I'm with my little daughter, who's 5 years old, and there was no room at the inn basically for breakfast because it was a Sunday, and the place was jammed, and I didn't want to wait. So they said, okay, this is at the harbor in Half Moon Bay, and they said, okay, why don't you come and sit at the fisherman's table? This is how it began, the fisherman's table. Watch out for the fisherman's table. Okay, so it's a big table. It's all fishermen. They've been out fishing. They're back. We sit at the table. There's a woman at the table. This woman has a turban on. So here's the early 80s. She's got a turban on. And we sit down next to her. The fishermen are talking about the tides and, you know, what's going on with the moon and the tides and all these kinds of things. And we weren't speaking, but my daughter chimes in, oh, I love the faces of the moon. And I said, no, they're not talking about faces. They're talking about phases. It's something different. And I started trying to explain this to her. And in the meantime, the woman with the turban who was sitting right there, right next to us, started talking to my daughter about what this was, and then she started talking to me about how she'd been waiting for me there for 2 months. Now, this is a woman I'd never seen in my life, right? So she's waiting for me, and she says, I've been here looking for you for 2 months. Where have you been? So this is a Sunday. And she says, you're the one I've been waiting for. I said, I don't think so. Yes, you're the one. You are going to apprentice with me, she says. And I'm like, no. And she says, we start tomorrow. Well, tomorrow was a Monday, and I was the head of a research project at Stanford University. And I'm like, no, I have to go to work tomorrow. And she's like, no, you don't. I'm like, yes, I do. No, you don't. And I'm like, well, maybe. No, I don't. So the following morning, I called in. I had a secretary at the time. I said, I'm going to be working from home, which wasn't done so much back then. I'm going to be working from home today. I take my daughter off to play school. or wherever, I think it was kindergarten, I go down to this woman's pickup truck with a camper shell on the back and a Doberman. I climb in the back, and she starts. And she starts with the Tarot. That was the first thing, Tarot and Kabbalah. So Tarot became a doorway to the Kabbalah, and so that was how it began. And then it just continued and continued and continued. And one last thing I want to say about that is that when I looked at the beauty of the arrangement of this, she told me I knew how to read, by the way. She said, read for me, read these cards for me. I don't know. But I did it. And when I saw the beauty of how this fit together, this Tarot, and then how that led into Kabbalah and what Kabbalah was and how it started to unfold, I thought, and this is the truth, that this honestly was the most brilliant theoretical system I had ever seen. And this was after I already had a PhD in sociology, and I had a lot of background in psychology. And I thought nothing I learned in graduate school could touch what this system was beginning to teach me. That is how the next leg of the journey began. So that was in the early 80s, and here we are. That was 35 years ago, I guess, and now here we are today. Okay, end of a long story, and it could be much longer, but I'm going to stop it right there.
But, you know, what I love about that story is that, you know, a lot of people wonder, how do you get apprentices? Apparently you sit at the fisherman's table, and whenever the beautiful woman comes and sits next to her, you tell her you've been waiting for her, and she's going to start with you tomorrow.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
Yeah, and here I thought it was all about salesmanship and what have you. Just tell them they've got to show up. You know.
That reminds me of Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna said, he said, you know, there's a guru on every single street corner, but the thing that's really hard to find, really, really hard to find, is one good devotee, period. But I was the good devotee. There I was.
Well, I believe you, and I'm sure you were probably the best devotee she ever had. And I love the fact that she was in a pickup truck with a camper on the back of it. Sounds like a good gypsy girl. You know, my first shamanic teacher was a Navajo weaver who came to be a artist in residence at St. Mary's College for a year when I was there. And I just fell in love with her. She was so fabulous. I don't think in the entire year I knew that woman, she said probably more than 100 words. She guarded her words as though, you know, she was being charged word by word. But she was just brilliant, and her hands, whenever she wove, she just wove magic. And she would, you know, just very sparsely tell us the stories. And she actually had invited me to be on the Navajo Reservation, come out to the Navajo Reservation and be her apprentice. And regretfully, she was killed by a drunk driver. Oh. So I've always thought that I lost out on that, that it would have been a really remarkable experience. But you know, you never do know who it is that's going to be that doorway for you. That's why one of the things I love about this show is we have the opportunity to be the doorway for somebody who has no idea what is going on. You know, I've had so many people say, oh, well, it's just wonderful to know that there's other people like me. And I'm going, well, sorry about that. But do want to talk about your new book. We're so excited. So having given that introduction, and since, as I said before you came on, I know almost nothing about the Kabbalah. I know enough of it to recognize the Tree of Life, and can generally drag up one or two of the circle's names. So Raven is going to be my stand-in here for questions, because I don't want to look like an idiot. It's my show, and I'm not going to look like an idiot. So anyway, so would you tell us, and hold it up by your head so we can see it.
So
Yeah, you hold it up high. If you hold it up too low, we won't. Yes,
right.
beautiful. Oh,
It,
gorgeous.
it's thick. This is the longest thing I have ever done. 809 pages. I didn't have a limit of 820 pages in the machines.
Uh-huh.
Literally, you know, to when they make the books. So anyway, it's 809 pages. Not that that means anything. It's just that, oh my, I couldn't believe it myself. But it's called Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit. And it is so hot off the press that it won't even be on Kindle until later tonight. So it's in process right now. Now, the book is on Amazon. You can get the book, but only for the last few days, the final edition. But it's available, and it will be available on Kindle by tomorrow morning anyway. So, yeah, so Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit. So really, the process that I began with that woman so many years ago, you might say this is the culmination of the work that I began with her, even though that's 35 years ago. I can't really say it's the culmination. I don't know where they will call me or lead me next. Maybe there will be another one. But the first book that I did, oh, this woman, I have to go back to her now. Her name was Oni, and she was a gypsy. She called herself a witch. That was commonly used in those days, as you would remember. She was a gypsy. She was on the road, and she told me the reason that she had been waiting there for me at that time was that I was supposed to write a tarot book, create a tarot deck. That was the whole purpose of it. Well, at that time, there were only 7 tarot decks on the market. It's hard to believe because today there are thousands. But at that time, there were only 7, and she said, you need to create a tarot deck to bring the existing tarot decks that are available right now into balance, like make it balance between male and female, dark and light. That was the whole point. And we wound up, my mother wound up collaborating. We wound up collaborating together, so I'll mention something about that in a moment. But shortly after that time, excuse me, I got involved in 3 mystery schools. Not just 1, but 3 Western mystery schools. I wasn't content with 1. I guess I had to find out if they were all teaching the same thing or whatever, and they all were teaching Kabbalah. So I had quite a background in Kabbalah for a long time. And very mysteriously, so I was already a writer, I was really into writing, and very mysteriously, my mother, who was an art professor at the University of Denver in Colorado, mysteriously also got pulled into the Western Mystery School. Not by me, not by me, but by a yoga teacher. She got hurt, and then she was in yoga to get fixed, and then a yoga teacher just drew her in, and suddenly she was in a mystery school, and she was studying Kabbalah. So we were both immersed in Kabbalah, and I started writing this book, and I asked her if she would do the cards for the book. So that book was Tarot of the Spirit, and Tarot of the Spirit. This is, I'm reaching for the book. This is Tarot of the Spirit. So this is the book that came out, and then with this is a tarot deck, Tarot of the Spirit deck. So my mother painted the cards, and I wrote the book. But then as I went on and got more and more and more deeply involved in the Kabbalah, I should mention the relationship between Tarot and Kabbalah. But as I got more deeply involved in Kabbalah, then this book, the Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit, emerged. And this came out of the mystery school, basically, that I started. I wound up starting a Western mystery school. So I've had the Western mystery school for a long time. So Kabbalah, what it is, really all it is it's a secret, it's not even secret, it's a body. It's not a body. It is mysterious knowledge that we can receive if we open to receive it, basically. And one path by which we can receive it is the tree of life. So this, and that's what you said you're familiar with. So this is like the diagram. People have seen this, perhaps. Diagram of the tree of life. Okay, so the tree of life basically sets out 10 spheres. That's what you're talking about, those 10 spheres. And those 10 spheres move in a certain pattern. And they open just like our 10 numbers in our 10-point number system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so each one has a number of meanings associated with it, and we can start to study the meanings of, let's say, sphere number 1 on the tree of life, and we can immerse in meditations on that sphere, and when we do that, suddenly a body of knowledge will open to us. Like I said, body of knowledge is not really a body of knowledge, but it's mysterious, mystical knowledge that comes through. And just about anybody who turns her attention to that practice can open to that body of knowledge, but we can only receive it. So the tree of life is like it's like a series of guideposts, or we move up and down the study of that tree, and it's like guideposts that point to knowledge. Mm-hmm. The teacher can't give you the knowledge, though. You can only open to receive it from these mysterious sources in the universe. So it is a very mystical path, the study of the Kabbalah. So in this book, what I've done is I take people on basically a step-by-step path to opening to that knowledge. And so it takes you step by step. Okay, here's the first step, here's the second step, here's the third step. So first open to this type of knowledge, then to this type, and then to this type. And the tarot cards, actually, I know some of you are super familiar with this, but other people might not be. So on the sphere number 1, which is right at the top of the tree of life, there are several tarot cards that fit right in that position. So when you're drawing the tarot cards, if you draw a number 1 tarot card, and there are these 4 ones, they fit right here on the tree of life. So this is also creating inner relationships between these concepts and positions, and each one of these tarot cards is a compendium of mystical knowledge. So that's one way to look at it. I know that sounds a little bit academic. You can read them without having any of that information. But if you do have that information, it moves it into maybe it's a different type of reading. It's a Kabbalistic reading. And so this Tarot of the Spirit deck is a Kabbalistic tarot deck. In other words, it's completely based on Kabbalah and those mystical teachings in that mystical body of teachings. Okay. What do you think? How can I make that more clear?
No, I think that's very clear. What I'm wondering about, because I'm always interested in the interconnection between Egyptian mysteries and Jewish mysteries, is what is the accounting or the history that they give of the Kabbalah?
Okay, so the Western Mystery School is a teaching organization. I mean, there are many, many different Western Mystery Schools, but they're all dedicated to the Kabbalah. And the one that you might say I grew up in primarily was the Masonic Western Mystery School, which is dedicated to the Kabbalah. So I was in 3 different Masonic mystery schools with the Masonry somewhat as the base. Okay, so in all 3, this is the way they taught. So what they said, the way that it is connected to, the way that this tree of life is connected to the Egyptian mysteries is, for example, and this is amazing to me, in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which the Egyptian Book of the Dead, as you probably know, it's not an actual book, but it's the writings out of the tombs that are on the walls of the tombs, and then those writings are transcribed and people have interpreted them and studied them. Okay, so there's one tomb with a lot of information about initiations, And that tomb is the tomb of Ani, A-N-I. And you can find a lot of information. If you just Google that, you'll find a lot of information about that. Well, so interesting that in the Tarot, and okay, first of all, in the Tarot, there are 10 cards, 1 through 10. 4 suits of those 10 cards, just like in the playing cards, which would be the spades, the diamonds, the clubs, and I forgot the other one, whatever, the 4 suits. The 4 suits in the Tarot. So, but 10 cards in each suit. So those 10 cards correspond with the 1, 2, 3 spheres on the tree of life. Okay, between these spheres, again, between these spheres, there are these pathways, if you can see them, pathways. There are 22 actually of those pathways. And those pathways correspond to the 22 cards in the Tarot deck that are called the major arcana cards. Well, each one of those cards is an initiation of the major arcana cards in the Tarot. Okay, and so now I'm going back to the tomb of Ani. 22 of those initiation cards, one of them is called the Fool. The Fool is the one that moves through the other 21 initiations. In the tomb of Ani, Ani moves through 21 initiations. And each one unfolds in that tomb as a doorway, a doorway, a doorway, going deeper and deeper and deeper into consciousness. Okay, what are those initiations? What were those initiations in ancient Egypt? Well, they were deep initiations of philosophy and values and spiritual understanding. After going through each of those initiations were preparations for entering the next world. This is part of it, entering the next world. And when you transitioned, the idea would be that if you have been through all those initiations properly, that you would be met by 42 gods and goddesses, and they would ask you these questions. Have you ever lied? Have you ever stolen? All these different questions, and you would make an answer. You would answer in some way. And the idea is to bring your heart into a place through these initiations where your heart is as light as a feather. That's that Egyptian goddess Mayat who is holding the scales in one hand and a feather and your heart in the other scale. And the idea is you want your heart to be as light as a feather. And you learn that through the process of initiation. If your heart is as light as a feather and you answer all those questions right when you meet the 42 gods and goddesses, you enter the realm of eternal life. Okay, this is all very mystical. It's very mystical. But the strange connection between the Egyptian mysteries and then how it's been passed down into the Kabbalistic mysteries is that these initiations have remained. And that in the Kabbalistic mysteries, the Western mystery tradition, these initiations are very much alive, and they are also symbolized and contained in the Tarot cards, which is another amazing experience. So if you're reading the Tarot cards or working with it, you can use them as a step-by-step path in addition to reading them. So if you follow the step-by-step path, it's like moving through a series of initiations that take you into this very deep mystical place. And in the end, if the deeper you go into that place, the more you realize you are eternal. You are eternal life. And this is the same thing that was being realized in the Egyptian initiations. And that we know that from the Book of the Dead.
Right.
So it's almost like a long continuation.
Yeah, so I have to plug Normandy Ellis's Awakening Osiris, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, translated by Normandy Ellis. If you haven't read this, it is a treasure, literally. I think I'm on my 3rd copy because I wore out the first 2. But don't read Budges. It'll make you go creepy. Or as Normandy always says, Mr. Budge, God bless his heart. Um, so
because I think they're both talking about the tomb of Ani, or at least part of it is.
it's
Part of
either
it
the
is
tomb of
not.
Unas or the tomb of Ani. Normandy has been working for the last 25 years on translating, I think it's the tomb of Unifer. And one of these days we may even have that version of the Book of the Dead.
Fabulous.
But
Fabulous.
Raven, I want to bring you in here because she just said magic words, Masons, and so I'd like you to, interact here a little bit because you are my Mason friend.
Oh, good.
It's interesting. I am not a scholar. I mean, Pam, just so you have a little background, I've been working with the Tarot since I was 25. And I've recently, in the past few years, have been studying the Kabbalah with it. But I don't know if you can see that. I wear this ring every day. This is my dad's Masonic ring.
Oh, okay, right.
For a while, I was very interested in trying to track down Masonic mysteries because to me it was all about Ptah. Somehow, and I don't know where I got this, it was like, oh, Masonic initiation, Ptah, Orion, Osiris, Pharaonic. And I don't know how I got that, but I got that. And so it was interesting that men would come up to me and say, you can't wear this ring. And I'd say, I can do whatever I want. First of all, it's my dad's ring, and I can do whatever I want. They'd say, well, do you know what that is? And I said, well, yes, it's a pharaonic initiation to the Osirian mystery. And they would just freak out because, they're Masonic good old boys who they don't know what most Masons, I don't think, know what what their rituals are about anymore. But isn't it the 32nd degree initiation is the weighing of the heart initiation? A few years ago, they celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Masonic Lodge in Santa Fe, and I happen to know a friend of mine's husband was the master at that time. And they recreated publicly that, I think it was the 32nd degree, and they had the whole layout of Egyptian backdrop, and they did the whole ritual. And it was pretty mind-blowing. But so I have a lot of, my questions are being answered by you because I have all these little threads that need to get reconnected. But, yeah. So.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and the mace. Go ahead.
Well, the tree of life to me is so alive, and you can feel it moving around, and it's a giant doorway all in itself. I have to tell you, one day, you know how you get little information and you're not really thinking about anything? One day, the high priestess showed up to me, and she was sitting right smack, like at the da'at on the tree.
Right.
He said to me, I am the last altar you will cross. You are the altar. And you have to cross my altar. And I'm like, okay. And she was sitting right smack there in the da'at part of the tree.
Oh,
that where
absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to see if I can find the priestess card. Here, she's right here on the top. Of course, she would be. This is the priestess card. I don't know if you can see this from.
Raise her up by your ear. By your ear.
Oh, there we go. Okay,
Yeah.
There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, you see how there are two pillars on each side of her? And you're talking about that secret 11th sphere, it's called. of the tree of life, dot. And so I want to point out with these cards, each one is painted on a diagram of the tree of life. And I love what you're saying, the tree of life is a door, and here's the priestess, and she is the tree of life. She is the tree of life. And she's sitting in the middle, and she's holding a scroll. I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to...
Yeah, we can see it.
Holding a scroll, okay. And the scroll is, well, by the way, there's a Masonic floor of the Masonic temple there. It's a checkerboard floor. She's holding a scroll of the Akashic records. And basically, she is pointing to this place on the scroll, and she's saying, when you draw this card, she's saying, Kathryn Ravenwood, here is your name. She's saying, here is your name in the book of life. And she says, the book of life, this scroll, this Akashic records, this has been going on long before you were born. It's going to go on long after you're gone. Will you write your chapter now? Will you step into it fully? Will you embody this energy? What will you do? Because it's your time and you are alive right now on the planet. You are living cosmos. And so here she is. And that secret sphere that you're talking about, dot, which is the doorway into knowledge, is situated right about her, right at her throat. It's like right in her throat area. And that's her
where
voice.
that cross sits.
Yes, and this is her voice. See, this is her voice, because she accesses her voice through accessing the other dimensions, which is one of the things, of course, both of you have spent a lot of time in that place. And it just opens up a completely different world. It's worlds and worlds and worlds for us to traverse. You know, and one of the things, just one way we can start moving into that energy is through the tarot or through the tree of life, which opens up all that, the secret knowledge of the Kabbalah. And the Masons, you're right, that I think that now a lot of the Masons may not be familiar with the origins of their rituals. A lot of Masons still are, of course, but a lot are not, okay? A lot are not, because it's changed into a different kind of organization. But the Egyptian mysteries were very much alive in the Masonic teachings, not just the Egyptian mysteries, but there are also other mysteries that are alive in the Masonic teachings. And one place I became very aware of this, if you ever go to Philadelphia, there is the Masonic temple in Philadelphia that the founders of basically the United States, they were Masons, and they basically founded the United States based on Kabbalistic information, materials, the tree of life. I can't go into that right now, but if you just Google that, you'll find out that that is true, and that most of the buildings, the old buildings, are based on patterns of the tree of life, the diagram. Okay, so but this Masonic temple that was built, I think it was completed around 1820, so the American Revolution was 1776, and I think it took them that long to build it. But it has different rooms inside this temple that are dedicated to the different initiations that they did. Like one of them is the one you're talking about, the Egyptian, Osirian. It gives me chills to think about it. It's the Egyptian mysteries, and it's worth a trip to Philadelphia just to experience it, just to step into that room and to see what these people were looking at, thinking about, and what they were up to. But since that American Revolution, a lot of that has been lost, because you know the American Revolution was masterminded on Kabbalistic principles. And George Washington, who was one of the people who helped to mastermind that, was the Grand Master of the Alexandrian Lodge. Alexandria, Virginia, was not a coincidence. It was named Alexandria, which is the foundation or the base of the Egyptian mysteries. And so they were very versed in what was happening. And this, studying this tree of life gave them a method. It's a long story about how it would give them a method. I don't know if this is going to make sense right now, but it's a step-by-step path, and it gave them a step-by-step path to create the revolution that they needed to create, to bring things together, to come up with a new consciousness. Basically, that's what they were doing. They were coming up with a new consciousness. And after the American Revolution was completed based on those principles, and they basically outlined the American government based on Kabbalistic principles, by the way, too, that the structure, it's the structure of the government. Then they went on to create the French Revolution, which was 1789, based on the same principles. And so they were working on these things, separation of church and state, and some other issues that emerged directly out of these Kabbalistic teachings, which is pretty amazing. So they were very versed with them. But of course now things have evolved. We've evolved. We're in a different place now. And we're not in the same place that they were then, but some of that knowledge has remained and has been with us, and in fact the knowledge going all the way back to ancient Egypt. But our culture is evolving very fast, and our consciousness is evolving. And the way I look at this is that you and me, all of us, but we are the cosmos. The cosmos is not out there somewhere. This is the most important thing I have learned on this path. The cosmos is not out there somewhere. We are the cosmos. We rose up from this earth. We are the living cosmos. We are the living cosmos with the ability to reflect upon our own experience and to determine what we want to do on the basis of that. So we are cosmos with the power of self-reflection. We are the universe with the power to reflect upon itself and create its own experience. So we are vastly alive in the process of evolution, and we are more in creation and evolution, and we are far more powerful than most people realize in terms of how we can contribute to that. This studying these materials or immersing in meditation on these materials can just bring us alive to the fact that we are alive, that we are living cosmos, and our own efficacy, what we can do with our lives to become stronger and have a greater sense of meaning and purpose in our lives and on this planet, and being part of this planet, being this living planet. So that's where it's taken me, you know, that this is a path that we can pursue that really provides great inner strength. And I always say, you know, a priestess needs that kind of inner strength, you know, and a priestess needs an oracle. It's an oracle too. You can do readings. I love to do readings. It's wielding all of this amazing material. And I know both of you are engaged in that.
I did body work for 15 years, and I was passionate about it, but doing the tarot is what I absolutely love the most.
Don't you?
It is the best. It's just the best. I love it. I'm so grateful all the time for it.
Me too.
Talk to us a little bit about the way they talk about the lightning flash coming down the tree. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about why that energy comes in like this, why it comes down like the lightning bolt. And how maybe about how that connects the polarities.
Right. So what you're talking about, basically, I'm getting out this diagram again. So this diagram of the tree of life, again, the lightning flash is something that happens when all of these spheres become illuminate. That's the what you were drawing in the air, right? Is the connection between all these spheres. And what happens is, once we get to a certain point where we understand how they all fit together, this is magic, though. This is really magical. And suddenly we get the illumination that tells us, oh, I get the whole picture. not just one part or another part or another part. Oh, it's like that. If I can give you a kind of a silly metaphor, it's like the one where you have 20 people each looking through a hole in the fence, and what's standing on the other side of the fence is an elephant. But one person is seeing a patch of gray, one person's seeing a tail, one person's seeing something else, you know, an eye or something. And so each one has a different description of what's going on, and they're all true. All of them are true. But once we see, and each one of these places is like a different aspect of what is going on, and they're all true. Okay, but once we can back up, see how the entire thing fits together, suddenly what happens is a massive illumination, and it's like a Kundalini experience. It just turns on and everything becomes clear at once. And it's not just about the tree of life, it's about life itself. And that's why when we're working with the tarot, when we're working with these materials, suddenly at any given moment the light can turn on, where we can realize, oh, this is it. Now I understand the whole picture in a way I never understood it before. And all of a sudden we've got basically a paradigm shift. If it's strong enough, our whole consciousness moves into another dimension and another level. Yeah, so that's the lightning flash. It's interconnecting everything, and it happens all at once, just like lightning. When lightning happens, it doesn't illuminate one thing, then another, then another. It is sudden, and it illuminates the whole of the landscape at once. So that is the lightning flash of the tree of life, and that's part of what we're looking for, and part of why, you know, why would we draw a tarot card? Just a note on that. Why would we even do that? Well, one reason is because this is a system that's been refined. We're still, basically, the tarot that we're working with right now, that everybody's working with, is a 1,000-year-old system at least. I mean, it goes back further than that, but we know it goes back 1,000 years in the same configuration that it's in right now, because it's brilliant. And it has been refined and refined and refined over this period of time. So basically, any card that you draw is going to be a good one. Even if it's just random, it's going to be a good card. And it's going to teach you something. It's going to give you a different perspective on whatever it is you're dealing with. So what happens if we're not using an oracle like this is our thinking pattern can get caught in a loop where we just go through the same thoughts over and over. Awake at night, we can't sleep, something's on our mind, and we keep going through the same options over and over and over. And it drives us crazy. Well, just pull a tarot card, and suddenly you've got an option you never, ever considered. And everything breaks open. Your whole consciousness breaks open. It's very fast therapy. Anyway.
Amen to that. So, I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just asking for the sake of asking you a question. But since you're here, so we talk about the lightning flash on the Tree of Life. Mm-hmm. So how do you think that relates to our wonderful Tower Destruction card?
I'm sorry, Tower
Destruction card with a lightning bolt coming down and blowing up.
Tower cover? I'm sorry, you broke up for a minute. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it kind of buffers sometimes.
Yeah, the Tower card. How does it relate to the Tower? Okay, the Tower. I love the Tower. I'm trying to find it. So the Tower, well, all of these cards have many, many associations and things assigned to them. They have astrology, astrological correlations. They have colors, they have shapes, they have forms, just so many things. But one of the things that I love about the Tower card is that in Hebrew, it's Peh. It's called Peh. It's the letter Peh, P-E-H. And P-E-H means voice. And what it stands for actually is what is called the voice of the Creator, here it is, the voice of God. Okay, so, and what it shows is this destruction. Okay, so this is destruction of the Tower. You see the lovers falling out of it, and some kind of structure comes down, and that's the lightning flash, and that is when everything is illuminated. Okay, but what causes that to happen in the first place. It is what they would say is it is a vibration that is so powerful it can't be ignored. It's something like in the beginning was the word. It is that powerful. And so the word, the voice, and it could even be something we learn that creates that, but it's something that tears down our old structures. And it's good to tear down these old structures because the old structures are what is confining us. So eventually we become very confined by the very structures that we create, that we build. And so the idea is let the tower come down. Let it come down. Don't be afraid of it coming down. Let it come down, and then imagine all the stones on the ground. And then we're going to rebuild. But this time we're going to build in a new design, one that fits us better. Old stones in new designs. That is the idea. And leave out the ones that we don't want anymore. We've got a lot of this that needs to happen in the world. It's happening in the world today, all over the world. And a lot needs to happen. And, you know, there's a Zen saying, it reminds me of the Zen saying, this Zen saying, my barn having burned down, I can finally see the moon.
Yes.
Things become clear when the towers come down. And so, yeah.
Is it Rachel Pollack's deck, the Shining Woman?
Yes.
That she's standing on top of the tower and her hair's all crazy and she grabs a lightning bolt in each hand and she dances that sucker down.
Perfect. See, bring it in. People are afraid of this. Don't be afraid of it. It would not even be set in motion if a higher vibration did not want to come in. That's
Right.
the idea. Let the higher vibration come in. And here's another card. I just want to show you this one. Here's the lightning flash again. This is the 8 of Fire card, it's called. And this shows all the aspects of the tree of life fully illuminated at one time. And what that means is it means there's going to be some very rapid movement, very rapid growth, rapid movement.
I need that card.
Good. It's a good card.
I like rapid growth. You know, it's interesting. The Tower card for me has never been scary because when I was a kid, my favorite fairy tale was Rapunzel.
Oh.
I totally identified with Rapunzel. I had, you know, not an evil witch, but I had a father that I regarded as keeping me imprisoned. And, of course, then reading about Saint Barbara later on and the story of Saint Barbara, who was imprisoned in a tower as well. And it was, you know, so I identified with that very much. And the Tower card for me has always been about breaking free and moving on to that space of the star.
Ah, beautiful.
You can't get to the star until you break down the tower.
And really, I feel that the star in so many ways is our soulmatehood with the whole of the universe. And we've got to take down our small ways of knowing. Those ways that are too small, too tight, abusive, whatever it might be. Let them go. Let them go. If we're going to be all we can be, and I believe that we can be more than we are as a species. I have a lot of hope for the human species. This is one of my tools, actually, for bringing that hope alive and, you know, returning to a positive outlook and just new ways of knowing. That's the Tarot. That's the Tarot. That's the Kabbalah. And I just love it, like both of you. I just absolutely love this tool and this path. It's marvelous.
It is. It's the best ever.
Yeah.
So I want to go back because I still don't quite understand the relationship between the Egyptian mysteries and how they moved. I mean, I know that the Jewish people were in Egypt for at least 400 to 600 years. So did they take the Egyptian mysteries with them, and later transcend them into the Kabbalah, or was there a gap there historically?
Yeah, see, I'm not sure how much knowledge is known about that because it's so much underground. But this story, one of the stories is, I'll have to tell it quickly, but in Alexandria, when the library was burned, that would have been in 315 AD. It was burned a few times, but 315 AD. This Kabbalistic material was supposedly housed in that library, material about initiations and so on. And the people who worked in the library, priests and priestesses who worked in the library, because, you know, the academy, you might say, and the priesthood, it was all one. And so they worked in the library. They knew that the siege was coming, that they were going to burn the library. They, quote, spirited out all these scrolls, tons and tons of scrolls, supposedly took them to Fez, Morocco, where they went underground. But I need to point out that the Kabbalah is not only a Jewish system. This Kabbalah that we're studying has been underground and held for so many years by definitely by the esoteric Hebrew mystery school, but also by Gnostic Christians, by the Masons, by the Rosicrucians, and other groups, additional groups, who all had the same exact tree of life, quote, underground. So they're passing it from, they call it from mouth to ear, you know, oral transmission in small groups. And then when things started to surface and come when the printing press was invented and block printing and tarot cards emerged and things like that, it was discovered that all these different groups were holding the same tree of life, same diagram, same cards, you know, all of these different things. And that was, interestingly, at the peak of the Inquisition. So around 1475, everything starts to surface, and all these different groups are holding this material, which then many were saying went back to ancient Egypt, because there were so many Egyptian motifs and references and things like that that had stayed alive the whole time. But I think what we lost is the actual history. I don't think we have a step-by-step history, because it was an oral transmission for so very, very long. You know, so we're out of the mode right now of oral transmission. We still have it, but now we have so many written documents. But I've never seen anything that answered directly the question that you're asking, which maybe it will emerge. Maybe Normandy will find it. You know, maybe she'll discover some things. And by the way, I do love her work, and I think she's your friend, right? And if you see her, you can let her know that in this book, I'm going to return to my book, Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit, I don't have too many people that I referenced, because at this point, it's mostly my work. But Normandy, you are referenced in here, and I'm talking about you, and I quoted your book. I want you to know that. I love your book, the one that Gloria held up earlier. So, oh, yes, to the
astrologist and a tarot reader also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's not an Egyptologist, but she's an astrologer and a tarot reader.
That's right. The sisterhood.
Yeah.
The sisterhood. Let us continue.
Well, Normandy and Nikki are in Egypt right now. In fact, I think today they go down to the Afendina.
Oh, wonderful.
Not positive. What is today? The 5th, 4th? I think they go down to the Afendina today. I'm not sure. But they'll definitely be there this weekend. And that's Raven and I's favorite destination. That's the boat that we take up the Nile. And anybody who wants to see it, by the way, it is on Facebook. Just look up the Afendina. And Afendina means guardian spirit. So, and we love that boat. So, we love Egypt. It's we always celebrate Egypt. Well, Pamela, you have given us just a wealth of knowledge and information, and I'm hesitant to even break it off. In fact, I told the audience a few minutes ago I'm going to let you go as long as you'll go. So What do you have to say that is now? I want to say something here as a marketer. Okay, I'm going to switch hats. Okay, take off the priestess hats, put on the marketer hat.
Okay.
If all of us go and buy her book right now, or even if half of us does, she will go from 975,834, or wherever she is in the Amazon ranking, to probably #1.
Oh my.
So, I mean, as few as 10 people buying will move you particularly up the chart.
Wonderful.
If that happens, Amazon then puts more power behind it so that more books will sell. Because it says this book, and plus on top of that, if you get a #1, you get a little thing that says #1 on Amazon, and you get to keep that forever.
Oh.
So, and if we can all do that at one time, so when we get off the show tonight, go buy the book. It's not that expensive, you know. Give up a latte if you have to. So, Pamela, what would you say other than buy the book? I've done that one for you. You know, what would you like to give them as a last message as we're finishing up the show this evening?
Well, tell us about your mystery school.
www.pacificmysteryschool.com, Pacific Mystery School. So you can just check it out. You can check out PamelaEakins.com also. And as a parting, let's see what the masters of the universe want to say. So I'm going to draw a card, and let's just see, because I always trust the process. It is an amazing process. Oh, this card is the 3 of water. Water is the suit of emotion. It's about love. The 3, you mentioned, I was on the 3rd show. Today is the 30th show. The number 3 is about birth. Yeah, that this is birth. This is love. This is abundance. This is a state of grace. And the card is called Stream of Love. And the parting idea is for you to remember, this goes for all of us, for you to remember that you are in a state of grace. You are living and walking and being in a state of grace right now. You are in a state of abundance. So remember that, because that is something that is happening all the time. But it's up to each of us to remember that that is true. But I want to leave you in a state of grace, in a state of this purifying shower of love, in this place of love. And I would say overall that love is the lesson that I have learned from this work over and over and over again. Everything returns to love and returns to ever greater knowledge of love. The question is, how can we love each other more, and how can we be love walking?
Yep. That is the goal, to walk in peace, to walk in love. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on tonight. You've been absolutely brilliant, incredible, wonderful. Raven, you've done a great job. Thank you so much for taking up the questions and asking them. We have Maria Uresa, and forgive me, Maria, if I've mispronounced your name. An Apache medicine woman who's going to be on next week. I have her new manuscript here, and it's incredible. She doesn't have it published yet because it's at the editor, and I think they're doing a slash and burn. But we'll hope that they keep most of it in there, because it's got some really good information about the Pleiadians and about the cosmos. And I want to acknowledge Teresa's work, because Teresa has been giving us information here on the chat. For example, she's talked about the cosmos, from the Greek means adornment, and that we we are that as well as the meaning of the world. So it's you know, she's been giving us information as we go along here, and we really appreciate that, because this is a gathering of priestesses. We know that the people who are listening are priestesses. We know that we are priestesses, and we want to celebrate that. I do want to tell you that the Priestess magazine is still wending its way through the innards of Apple approval. We got one step further today, but hopefully we'll get one more step further tomorrow. So it's not on the newsstand yet. It is available on the Gathering Priestesses group on Facebook, as well as I put all the videos there from 1st of August on, have been put up there. We do have a private group which you can join, which gives you access to the first 17 of these that we did, where we had 38 women speaking over a period of 17 shows. And they're quite remarkable, and there's gifts from each and every one of the priestesses there. And I want you to know that this is definitely something that, you know, I feel that what we're creating here is much bigger than ourselves, and it is in many ways the explanation and the exploration, I should say, not explore, the exploration of the Western mysteries in many ways. I mean, I haven't had an Easter. I'd love to have, by the way, if anybody's out there and knows anybody who knows the Eastern mysteries, I'd love to have them on. I won't be able to, they're just going to have to talk because I don't know anything about it. But it really, in many ways, we have explored many, many different aspects of this. And, you know, I want you to comment. I want you who are, you know, comment on the YouTube. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you see. Comment in the group. If you want to be part of the group, it's a private group. You have to ask to be joined, and I will approve you. So I'm not going to open it up and let it be public. That way, people do weird things then, like add people to the group who don't want to be there. So, but you know, I do feel that we are building something here. We're building a body of work that is quite remarkable, and as far as I know, has never been created before. So we are based upon the book which we started with, Stepping Into Ourselves, an anthology of writings on priestesses, but we are exploring beyond that. And with Maria, we stepped beyond that, as she was not in the book. We have, in addition, Diana Price, who's going to be on the week after that, who is a lovely, luscious woman from Los Angeles area. We have Kala Ambrose is going to be on the first Tuesday in December, and a friend of mine, Nikki Faldamayo, is going to be on the last Tuesday in November, and she is a temple priestess of the tantric arts. So we'll find out what she has to say, and she's also a very lovely and beautiful redhead. Anyway, but thank you both for being here tonight. Thank you all for our audience for being here, and thank you for staying. You know, I did give you fair warning. We're going long. Anyway, but thank you so much, and good evening. And come back next Tuesday, and we'll see what we talk about then.
Mm-hmm.